good can you feel? How strong can you be? How fearlessly can you live your life knowing that you're doing all you possibly can in terms of your lifestyle choices to manifest the greatest possible degree of health and vitality? I hope you answered, I feel really good, I'm really strong, and I do live fearlessly. Well, at the end of this episode, you're going to be able to say all that with even more conviction. Hello, best listeners anywhere. I'm Victoria Moran, and it is my pleasure to be joining you in your car or on the treadmill or while you're cooking fabulous vegan food and listening to the Main Street Vegan Show. So, we're going to be talking about cooking some of that wonderful food with your health in mind after the break when I chat with Dr. Vinita Rahman of the Barnard Clinic about her new book, Simply Plant-Based. And right now, I have two dazzling guests who are off the charts fit and off the charts kind. They are Giacomo Marchese and Dani Taylor, a married couple who played a huge role in putting vegan bodybuilding on the map. They're co-founders of veganproteins.com and plantbuilt.com, and they're members of the Vegan Strong team. As champion bodybuilders, they reach the mainstream fitness world to promote a vegan diet and lifestyle. At home, they focus their energies on coaching vegans to reach any physique and strength goals they have, with a focus on balance and mental health, as well as on superior results. Welcome, Giacomo and Dani.
Hi, thank you so much for having us. Excited to be here.
Well, it's always wonderful to have you. I followed your career for such a long time, and it seems like there was a time when there were, I don't know, 6 or 7 vegan bodybuilders, and now it's just become this huge thing, and you guys have been part of that for such a long time. So give us just a little bit of your background, how you met, how you found the sport, and where the veganism comes in.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually grew up in a really unhealthy household. I grew up overweight. We didn't have a lot of money, and unhealthy food is cheap. So we ate a lot of unhealthy food. And I grew to be obese by the time I was in high school. So although I went vegetarian really young, like 8 years old, just because I didn't want to eat animals, I did still consume a lot of dairy and eggs. And it wasn't until I was doing a research paper about veganism in high school that I learned, I was doing a high school paper about vegetarianism. I learned about veganism, which I'd never heard of. And I decided to go vegan for ethical reasons. And very shortly thereafter, my health started turning around. It started improving. Doctors started noticing. And it was the first time in my life I realized that my health was not just my genetics. What I did played much larger role than I originally thought it did in my own health. So then I followed that thread towards a healthier version of veganism, fitness, strength, and eventually met Giacomo and others. And the fitness part is history.
I love people's stories. And like you, I was obese in high school, obese in my 20s. And I thought it would never change, or maybe if it changed, it would always be a struggle. But what happened was it changed, and it's not a struggle. So life is good. So Giacomo, your story.
Yeah, life is good. My story, I wanted to get into fitness at a young age. I did not feel like I was athletic enough to do so. I wanted to have confidence as far as who I was as a person, and all roads pointed to getting active and eating healthier. My conductor, when I was a drummer, was a bodybuilder, maybe still is, don't know. Long story short, I got into bodybuilding. Through bodybuilding, I realized I wanted to help people. And I felt that the only way to do that was to lead by example. All roads then pointed to veganism. And I met community through Robert Cheek and my now wife, Dani, and felt like we had something to share. So we kept this thing going through Vegan Proteins and Plant Built. And by putting a good message out and continuing to be active and healthy and even competitive, we hope to continue to help others achieve the best version of their self.
So let us understand all these different things that you're involved with. So we'll start with Vegan Proteins. What's that?
So Vegan Proteins originally started as a vegan supplement store back in 2008, because in 2008, if you were an athlete, it was really hard to find a plant-based protein powder. I know that sounds crazy now, but in 2008, there were people looking for protein powder that was vegan and all they could find was whey. So we started an online supplement store. Now you can walk into any CVS and find that, which is amazing. So we realized the world didn't need our little vegan supplement shop anymore. But at that point, we had grown quite a reputation for coaching vegan athletes. So we fully transitioned to coaching vegan athletes. And that is what we do full-time every day.
And I see the website here. If anybody's looking for some really great coaching that you can get online from wherever you are, you can go to veganproteins.com/personal-training. And of course, we will put that and all of these URLs in the show notes at mainstreetvegan.net. So, okay, these days, Vegan Proteins is about coaching. And how about plantbuilt.com?
Plant Built is being revitalized. It's been dormant for several years. We shifted our work toward coaching and then collaborating with Vegan Strong. And now that we're reaching the mainstream fitness audience and there's an opportunity for Plant Built to compete again, the competition now exists. We are working together with Vegan Strong so that we reach a wider audience and that we bring Plant Built back and we compete together.
So what Plant Built is, it's the largest team of vegan strength athletes in the world. So like you said, back in the day, there were like 6 or 7 of us, but we realized every time we would go to a different veg fest in a different city, we would meet another amazing vegan athlete we had never heard of before. And we said, what if we got all of these people together to compete in a large fitness competition with non-vegans? Because at that time, it was a stereotype to be a vegan strength athlete. You were almost kind of chuckled at. But when we got everybody together in all of these different sports, we went into various competitions and did very well and got a lot of people asking, hey, what is it about this vegan thing that makes you guys such good athletes? So the whole idea was to show people what was possible. And that's what we've been aiming to do.
I have a tank top from Plant Built that I bought from you guys at some veg fest somewhere. And on the back, it says Plant Built Muscle. And I'm always embarrassed to wear it because I think I don't have enough muscle and I'm going to make veganism look bad.
No, not possible. There's so many different ways to be a great shining example of what plant-built muscle means. It doesn't just have to be bodybuilding. There are so many different sports that vegans are excelling in across the board. And the cool thing is everyone looks different. We have really, really slim endurance athletes doing amazing things. And then we have very, very large powerlifters and strongmen doing amazing things. And the point is, you can do anything that you want to do. As a vegan, you can do it. Whatever it is you want to do, don't let anybody tell you, well, you can't do that because you're vegan, because I guarantee you can.
It's so thrilling. My daughter is an athlete. She's a stunt performer and a professional aerialist, and she's been vegan her whole life. And she's like a tank. I mean, I tell her sometimes, I don't want to bump into you. I might hurt myself. But it's all plant. It's all plant built, as you guys say. Now, then you have the Vegan Strong team. Is that another team?
Yes. With Vegan Strong, we travel with various athletes to expos across the country. So it gives us a chance to have a voice, a stage to speak on. We see different attendees at these big, larger-than-life fitness events where they're competing, they're walking around, checking out different booths. And here we are, the vegans with a microphone and with a demo station to show them different kinds of foods they can make. And we're at our table passing out pamphlets or free recipes and this and that, having as many conversations as is humanly possible. During the pandemic, instead of taking to the streets, so to speak, we're doing this online. And we're also providing resources on the website, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, but it's very different than what we've done in the past. Like we met you at a Veg Fest, which is amazing. We love Veg Fest, but it's a little bit like preaching to the choir at a Veg Fest. But what we've been doing now with Vegan Strong Team, which was started by Robert Cheek, is we go to mainstream fitness events, the Olympia, the Arnold. We are not talking to vegans in this place. We are talking to probably some of the people who eat the most meat, dairy, and eggs of anybody in this country about what is possible on a vegan diet. And we were afraid that we would kind of get laughed out of the venue. And it turned out that was not the case at all. We would get people coming over who were not vegan at all, not even vegetarian, but they would come over and rather than say, haha, that's an oxymoron, they'd say, I should be more plant-based, but I just don't know how to do it and keep this level of athleticism. So that's what we're there to help them do. I don't think they're going to go vegan overnight, but if they even start to make changes, all of that adds up so much.
Oh, that's so exciting. And the fact that the vegan word is being used, that we're not shying away from what we really are. That is so exciting. So I know in terms of your training with people, you do a lot with short-term goal setting. And I think so often, it's still, it's March, but it's still early in the year. And it's like we made those resolutions way back then for a year. And we think about the 5-year plan. But short-term goals, you can actually kind of get your mind around. So tell us about those.
Yeah, for sure. I think people get really motivated and hyped up and they want a quick fix or they want to see their before and after picture or whatever. And it doesn't help that that's a lot of what they see in the fitness industry. So we really focus on working with mindset and saying, yes, we're going to get to your bottom line. We want you to achieve your short-term goal over the next, 1 to 2 months. But what happens after that? And can we do it in a sustainable way? And that's a lot less of exciting thing, but I feel like it works long-term. So we're not afraid to push for results, but we do want to make sure that we're doing it in a way that doesn't compromise someone's mental health and does empower them to make better choices and do this in a sustainable way long-term.
So in the way that you see fitness and health, how do exercise and food choices come together? What's more important? What should people be focusing on? How does that work?
So the fitness industry as a whole is very flashy. They want you to buy the shiny new toy all the time, the new cool diet, the new cool supplement. And I guess that makes some people a lot of money, but what we really think people should be focusing on is the basics. And we know that that's not as appealing to most people, but making sure that you are moving your body every day in a way that feels good to your body. If you hate running, don't run. If you hate weightlifting, you don't have to lift weights. You can find some way to move your body that feels good to you. So we want people to do that every day. In a perfect world, we would love everybody to be vegan, but as a starting position for some people, we want them to start including more fruits and vegetables into their lifestyle. But rather than focusing on, I'm going to cut out this, this, and this, we say, hey, why don't we focus on what we can add to your plate? Can we add more colors to your plate? Can we try some new food that you've never tried before? Other factors like your hydration. Are you getting enough water? Are you getting enough sleep? Before you start to worry about the nitty gritty details about maybe if I take this supplement, it will help. If you don't have those big pieces in order, nothing else, none of those little details are going to matter. So we work on like getting people's house in order first before we start playing with the smaller variables. And I feel like that's where a lot of people kind of have it backwards.
And what about the training schedule, both for somebody who's just trying to go from sedentary to reasonably fit and somebody who really wants to get into bodybuilding or another sport? How much working out are we talking about? How do people incorporate that into their lives?
My minimum ask for anyone is to say, yes, I can do 2 to 3 days a week of 30 minutes. If you can do that, then you have the potential to fit something in that's reasonable, no matter what's going on in your life. And you can scale up and still fall back on that and say, I'm going to be active no matter what. There's always a way to get up and get moving, no matter what you do or don't have access to as far as training equipment or what have you, right? And I feel like it's also helpful to have some sort of activity outside of resistance training, meaning moving your body. Moving your body is good for you in general, like literally moving your body, like walking or doing some sort of cardio that's not too intense on your body.
So I think the key thing is to meet people where they're at, right? If somebody has been sedentary for years, we would never suggest that they go to the gym for 5 days a week for an hour a day. They would be so sore and so fatigued so quickly. They would say, this feels terrible. I hate this. I'm never going to do this again. So we start with what I like to call the minimum effective dose. So like Giacomo said, for someone who's sedentary, starting with 2 to 3 days a week of kind of moderate intensity cardio or light lifting, where you're just really learning the form just to get your body acclimated to moving, is great. If somebody's already sort of like, a regular gym goer, but they want to take it to the next level, maybe they go from training 4 days a week to 5 days a week, or instead of lifting for 45 minutes, they start lifting for an hour. They add on more sets. So it's kind of about wherever you are, walking it up slowly in a way that your body is going to not be too fatigued and not get injured, because not getting injured is the number one rule.
So we've all been through, and I guess we're still going through a pretty tough period in the outer world. And I think one of the things that's happened with the pandemic is a lot of people are a lot less fit than they were, because the gyms closed and then they reopened, but you have to wear a mask, and that's hard for a lot of people. So tell us a little bit about being trained online. I mean, are people using, I don't know, cans of peas, or, how does that work?
In the beginning, that was definitely true. I remember when this first started unfolding, and I, among all of the things we were all stressed out about, I was like, oh my gosh, we have to write a million programs for people at home right now, because everybody's gym is about to close. So at first, it was very much a use what you got situation: water bottles, cans of soup. Some people did have exercise bands. So that was the first thing we recommended that people get: a good set of exercise bands. A whole set, a good one, is going to run you $30 or $35, something like that. They weren't out of stock early on in the pandemic, and you can train your whole body with that in your house. So that was sort of where we started. And unfortunately, since it's been so long at this point, a lot of people have upgraded their home gyms to have dumbbells or a bench or a pull-up bar. And basically, for every person that we work with, we design programs based on what they have. And some people have more and some people have less. But in the beginning, everybody, including us, we're just like, okay, this is what we've got to work with. We're going to find a way to make it work. And it was hard.
So I've taken yoga classes online and a couple of aerobics classes. That just seemed a little bit unnatural. The yoga classes, work pretty well. So tell me about working with weights online. You talk a lot to the people. Do you demonstrate? Just give us a preview.
Sure. Well, typically we put their programming in an app for them, and they have video tutorials, and it gives them a step-by-step instruction on what to do, and then they watch us performing it. So we have an exercise database for all of the movements that we prescribe. That being said, it's not quite the same as being able to cue and physically adjust someone and see someone in three-dimensional fashion in person. So that is a net negative, but you can do a lot with someone online. You could be in communication with them more often. You can get creative with the kind of ways that you cue them, and you can do video analysis where the both of you are together together and separately looking at what's going on, critically thinking about form, and then adjusting accordingly. So we do form checks, and we have clients send us their movement patterns when they film themselves.
Yeah, so they'll film themselves doing a squat. They will send it to us, and we will make a detailed video critique. This is going really well. We need to work on doing this a bit more. Keep sending these videos so we can keep improving it. But luckily, many of the people who come to online coaching in the strength realm, by the time they come to us, they already do have some familiarity with how to lift weights. So if somebody was completely wet behind the ears, had never done a strength training program before, online coaching might not be the best place to start. Not to say you can't learn online. Certainly YouTube is a wonderful resource for everything. But there are benefits to when you've never learned how to properly squat, for example, to actually going to a gym, having a session with a trainer in person, or a physical therapist or a chiropractor, even in person, just to make sure you have the mechanics right before you start adding weight to it. But once you have those basics, online coaching is a really great option for a lot of people economically, and especially for what we do, working with vegans. A lot of people don't have a vegan trainer down the street from them at the local gym. So that's where it really, I think, is helpful.
Yeah, I've known so many people who've gotten trainers who say, oh, yeah, you're vegan. That's cool. But as things proceed, they can't help but saying, it's almost like everything is fine as long as it's perfect. But if the person sneezes once or ever, can't go up quite as fast as the trainer thinks, then they sometimes like to get in the maybe you need a little more protein, which is, then we
That's
give them the
actually
vegan proteins talk.
Yeah. So that's actually what inspired me to start learning so much about vegan nutrition in the strength world. Was my trainer said, hey, kid, if you won't at least have whey protein, this might be where your results stop. And that just lit a fire in me. Like, I'm going to prove her wrong. I'm going to figure it out. So yeah, that's how that progressed many, many years ago.
Very cool. Now, in terms of the sport of bodybuilding, I look at the two of you, and obviously we're online, so I'm not seeing you in 3 dimensions, but neither one of you is huge. Neither one of you I would point out. And I mean, obviously you're fit, but it's like, maybe they're, I don't know, runners, dancers, whatever. I wouldn't think bodybuilders, but you are. So tell us about if somebody wants to do that and they don't necessarily have an Arnold physique to start with, what can they do?
Well, Arnold has great genetics. However, Arnold did not have an Arnold physique to start with. There's a lot of ways where bodybuilding, to the average person who is not really deep into it, they can be deceived because there are performance enhancing drugs that are used. And then there's also a lot of illusions when it comes to bodybuilding. You have to make yourself look a certain way. Like I look a certain way right now, but I could flex and I could look a lot bigger. But then again, someone else could be enhanced and look even bigger than that.
Yeah.
So, and I sort of like to lead with, we're going to focus on you being the best version of yourself, what your body's capable of doing. And of course, whatever your choices are in terms of that will dictate what your potential is.
Yeah. So most people are very surprised that natural bodybuilders, natural meaning that you don't use any performance enhancers or anything like that, are actually a lot smaller in person than you expect them to be. You'll see a picture online and think that they're massive. And then you see them in person and you're like, oh, you're smaller than I thought. Whereas when you go to the untested world, the Arnold world, where they don't do any sort of testing on you, those folks are really, really big. And I think that's what most people think of when they think bodybuilding. But there are 2 sports. There's the untested and the tested. So we stay in the tested world, and that's where we like to perform. And I think that anybody can improve their physique as a vegan, regardless of what your genetics were. Like you said, you were obese into your 20s. I was obese until I was about 18 years old. And you can turn anything around. I never in a million years would have thought that I would have an athletic physique. Never. But it's, a lot of hard work and consistency over a long period of time, and you can do a lot.
Yeah. Well, it's a very interesting sport because it doesn't require a team. I know you guys are on a couple of teams, but it's really just you. So it's almost like the perfect sport for the introvert.
Yes, it's kind of an isolating sport, actually, which I think is why so many people gravitate towards teams, because you're eating very differently than everybody you know. I mean, we're vegan, so we're a little used to eating differently than other people, but even in our vegan community, when you're getting ready for a show, you're eating very differently. It can feel kind of lonely. You're spending a lot of time in the gym. So you really have to love it. You really have to have good motivations for why you do it. Otherwise, you could easily come to resent it because of how much of your time it takes up. But all of that said, I still love the sport so much. So,
and you just share that enthusiasm with other people. I mean, you get people excited about bodybuilding, you get people excited about veganism. You're just, you're trainers, but you're also sort of excitement sparkers. I've always thought that about you guys. So we started out talking about short-term goal setting, but there's also like this long-term approach to success that you all are known for. So we only have a couple of minutes left, but just what's that about?
Well, the longer I go at this, working with others, the more I realize that I want to make sure that they commit to something that they can do for the rest of their lives. And they think of their fitness and their health in terms of their lifestyle, which means what will you do in a lifetime with your body? And what are you doing now that will affect you 20 years from now? And I feel like it also makes it so that you can grow into your body and with your body, as opposed to thinking that you're fighting the aging process, which I'm guilty as charged. I feel like that at times too. And then I have to like come to my senses and be like, it feels that way now. The truth is I am making sure that no matter what age I'm at, that I have the most use of my body and I am the healthiest version of myself. And I try to echo that and speak to that point with others as well.
Cool. And I know you wanted to share with the listeners the free resources for recipes and workouts through Vegan Strong and Vegan Proteins. What have you got?
Yeah, so I mean, that's pretty much it. If you are looking for some fun free workouts, like some of the home workouts we talked about here, or some fun recipes that are obviously vegan and geared towards an athletic person, veganstrong.com has all of that, and articles and motivation. There's so many awesome resources on veganstrong.com. We would definitely recommend checking it out.
So cool. And the one thing we didn't talk about real quick is Muscles by Brussels.
I know that's our podcast.
That's your podcast. That's a Facebook group. You know, they always say people who listen to podcasts listen to podcasts. Mm-hmm. So everybody check out Muscles by Brussels Radio. We'll put the link at mainstreetvegan.net. And thank you so much. Thank you for all you do to make people healthy and make the world kinder. You guys are just I don't know, you're a light source. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having us. This was really fun. And we always enjoy talking to you. We were excited to do this.
Thank you so very much.